them here because of WWNT, I think was phenomenal. Also the fact this is something that I missed, unfortunately, when I was in one of those final showings, but right at 10 p.m. whenever Muppet Vision permanently closed, and like you mentioned, Heather was the final guest ever to enter the building, which I just think is a beautiful send-off. All of the fans in Muppet's courtyard around the Miss Piggy fountain, they actually were singing Rainbow Connection. And I saw some people pretty emotional over that, because just Rainbow Connection, it's such an iconic Muppet song. And saying goodbye to the attraction with that moment, I think that those were definitely two of the biggest moments right at the end of the day.
Wow. I mean, when you said 34 years, it kind of put into perspective when you think of a lifetime, right? Like, wow, that's been around for a long time for a lot of our lives. And when it comes to what it's being replaced by, talk to me a little bit about that. It's going to be Monsters Inc., Door Coaster, and Monstropolis Miniland.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best word that I would use for this is transformation. There is part of an expansion here because where this Monsters Inc. coaster is going to be built, that's a cast member parking lot now. So Disney is extending the park with capacity with this all new coaster. And the whole area, we are actually being invited into Monstropolis because, the monsters need our laugh power now. That is the storyline of the roller coaster, which I think is super clever. When we're on the roller coaster, the laugh canisters are going to be right above us, collecting our laughter. So I think the storyline is super fun here. I am very excited for the door coaster. I'm a big fan of Monsters Inc. But what I'm mostly curious by is Disney says that there's going to be an all new theater show in the same theater where Muppet Vision was. So this is a pretty big shoe to fill. People have loved Muppet Vision like we've talked about for over 34 years. So how do you even attempt to come up with a new show that's going to
Hmm.
be living in that same space that people enjoy for decades to come? And I think what I'm also looking forward to is, what they do with that quick service location, how they theme that to Monsters Inc. And then also where Mama Melrose's was, that's going to be Harryhausen's, a sushi restaurant from Monsters Inc., which everyone loves. That's an iconic part of the film. So yeah, it's a perfect transformation here for Disney to optimize the parks, to bring in the more general family, the general audience, bring in IP in a big way like this. So over the next couple of years, that's what we're going to see over at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see the what the response is going to be when it comes to the transition because like you said, people love what they love. And this has
Mhm.
been a staple. It's been around forever. And sometimes, if we're honest, us humans, it takes a little bit of time when it comes to transition and change. So, how do you think this will go over on some of the hardcore fans out there?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm really glad you brought this up because just, part of me being a content creator and being on social media all the time is
Hmm.
I really do see what the diehard fan base is saying and what the general family is saying,
Florida Live starts now.
Good Monday afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us here on Florida Live. I'm Marlisa Goldsmith in for Garrett Weimer today. Thanks for joining us wherever you're streaming from, whether it be Fox Local, Fox13News.com, or of course, Fox35Orlando.com. We certainly appreciate you being here with us. We have a full show on tap for you today. Let's go ahead and take a preview look at some of the big stories coming up here in the hour. First up, we have confidential informant and suspended Sheriff Lopez investigation here. Of course, we're still following this huge investigation that began on Thursday morning when suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marco Lopez, we learned that he was arrested that morning. We've been following it ever since, following all of the developments. Well, today we have a brand new development for you. We've learned of a confidential informant being involved in this investigation. The next story that we're going to follow later this afternoon is a man allegedly admitting to killing his parents in Largo. He was arrested in Georgia. And we're going to get an update from Nancy Gay in our Tampa Connection segment just a little bit later in the hour. And then another big story that we are following in our headlines today is Sumter County Superintendent responding to a school scandal. So the former superintendent, we learned, and assistant superintendent has been accused of creating what's being called shell schools to remove low-performing students from school grades in order to increase their state funding. This is a huge story making headlines. We are going to get an update on that. There was a press conference held this morning, and our own Randy Hildreth has been following this story for us. So again, three big stories that we are following this afternoon that we will get to shortly. Let's get to the first big story again, the one that is one of the highest clicked stories on our website, confidential informant that we have learned about in the Sheriff Lopez investigation. So here's the deal. The suspended sheriff, he was suspended by the governor, actually. He is still in jail. He's in the Lake County Jail being held on a $1 million bond. Again, to give you the backstory, he was arrested last Thursday on racketeering and conspiracy to commit racketeering charges in connection with running this massive illegal gambling ring out of a social club down in Kissimmee. That's in Osceola County. Reports say that he netted, or the group rather, netted $21.6 million. And the suspended sheriff's takeaway was $600,000 to $700,000. There have been new court documents that have been released that reveal the existence of a confidential informant. Our very own Marie Ettinger is following this. She is going through the documents, and she'll have an update for us this afternoon on our evening shows. But joining us right now is former sheriff's deputy and detective James Copenhaver. I want to go ahead and bring him in to chat with us. Hi there, James. How are you?
Hey, Marlisa, thank you for having me.
Yes. So this is a really big story here. I think it was one that's, it's fair to say, shocked a lot of people. I mean, this sheriff made history being the first Hispanic sheriff in the state of Florida. So not only was it a surprise for a lot of people living in Osceola County, but across the state, but, to be in this stature, I feel like a lot of people are always disappointed when something like this happens. You put your trust into someone behind the vote when you vote someone into a position like this to lead an entire sheriff's office, and then you find out that they're involved in criminal activity themselves.
Yeah, certainly a lot to unpack on this case. And like you said, I mean, those trusted voters went out and gave their trust to this man, and he essentially betrayed it by being part of a criminal organization, if you will. And some of the information that's coming out is just shocking. I've been in this business for 30 years, and what I'm hearing is just, it's like the mob stuff out of Chicago, if you will. It's just shocking.
It's big time, very much so. So the suspended sheriff has not bonded out yet. I know that judge last week set his bail at $1 million, $500,000 for each charge there, under several conditions. One of those being that he has to show all of the money is clean. We were kind of talking in the newsroom when we first heard this. How exactly does one go about proving that? I mean, is this something where you kind of track back your bank records, or what goes into proving that this money that I'd be willing to front, I'm able to front in order to get out until court proceedings happen, is clean money?
That's a tricky subject, and it's a nebula hearing. And what that implies is, the prosecutors in the state or the government wants to make sure that the sheriff doesn't use money gained from illicit activities to bond himself out. So, they don't want to have him to reward himself basically for his own criminal actions. But what they're going to do is essentially an accounting of the sheriff's finances. I can assure you that FDLE and federal agents already have his bank accounts probably froze at this point. And it's going to be incumbent, and the burden will lie on the sheriff to prove this money wasn't gained from the criminal organization that he's alleged to be a part of. And it's just like any other accounting issue. The Lopez team will have to show that these monies came from his regular salary as the Osceola County Sheriff. And then if he had any legal and legitimate businesses outside of the sheriff's office, those funds could count as clean money, if you will.
Gotcha. So it seems like there's a lot that goes into this. One question that I had, we were kind of looking over some of the investigation here. Prosecutors say that Lopez obstructed an investigation. So it seems like there's a possibility that he may have known about the investigation, or that it was ongoing while he was sheriff. But would he have been brought in for any sort of questioning prior to him being arrested?
I mean, if you take a look at that initial footage, Marlisa, when he was at HSI headquarters, when they were just getting ready to start processing him, not a lip reader, but it certainly looked to me like he mumbled the words or spoke the words, "What's this all about?"
You're right. I saw that. I did see that.
And being part of these lengthy undercover covert operations, I did them most of my career. the bad guy never knows until that arrest comes. So I'm going to suggest to you and the viewers that the sheriff had no clue this was coming.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I mean, very convoluted. We have some video of him in court actually that I wanted to play because just watching him in court, the contrast when you think about it of him, being in his sheriff's uniform versus him being in this orange jumpsuit. I mean, this is when his mugshot was taken there. But on top of that investigation, we have learned new information as well, or that's developed over the past couple of days, that there have been Osceola County Sheriff Office employees who have been terminated, one of them being Sheriff Lopez's executive director and a civilian employee. Now, they have not yet said if there's any sort of connection to this investigation. I know that Nerva, that executive director, her picture was removed from the website. We noticed last week, I believe it was Friday, when one of my colleagues noticed she was no longer on the website, and we worked over the weekend to get that confirmed. We just got that confirmed today that she has been terminated from her position. So what is one to say or speculate with this happening in the midst of an investigation?
Yeah, just coming from that arena, I find the timing of her termination to be suspect, right? As we all do. Could she be possibly involved? We just don't know yet, but we know that she was swiftly terminated once the interim sheriff came in. So, one would speculate, did she have something to do with it? Or more importantly, did she know something and just didn't report that? There's not enough information on that.
You're right. I didn't even think about that. So moving forward, obviously there are several steps to go in an investigation like this, but what would you say it looks like in moving forward? What could we expect to see next come out?
The AG's office announced a short time ago that they were more or less coming. Now, the last time I checked, there are still 2 people at large, which kind of is suspect to me. Why are they at large? They should have had a handle on these folks. So, I'm hearing the word informant that may have been involved in this case. But what investigators are doing now is probably buckling down the finances, doing that accounting, and finding out exactly how much money this organization profited from their illegal gambling operation. But more importantly, they're now probably looking for additional witnesses or collateral witnesses to maybe perhaps confirm some of this stuff for a future court hearing or trial.
Very interesting. I mean, just when you think that you've had this all figured out, something else happens that takes a lot of people by surprise. Well, we'll just have to wait and see what comes next. Of course, James, it's been a pleasure, and we certainly appreciate you being here on Florida Live with us to provide a little more insight into this major investigation.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, so we still have much more to come here on Florida Live. Coming up after the break, we are going to be checking in with our Tampa connection. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to Florida Live. Again, we have a lot of stories that we are following. It is time now for our Tampa connection. Big stories that our sister station Fox 13 out in Tampa is following. And so we want to bring in Fox 13 Tampa digital producer Nancy Gay, who is joining us live. Hi there, Nancy.
Hi, Marlisa. How are you today?
Good. I mean, doing pretty good for a Monday. How are you feeling?
I'm pretty good. Yes, it is Monday, but it's a pretty day outside, so we're doing pretty well over here in Tampa.
You're right. You're right. I know. And we have rain chances heading back into the picture, so we're going to take the sunshine while we can get it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so you have several big stories that you're tracking this afternoon. Let's begin with the suspected parent killer who was arrested in Georgia. So he admitted to this. This story just blew my mind.
Yes, this story is definitely unusual and different because deputies say that he did admit to killing both of his parents. And not only did he admit it, but he's calling it a righteous kill. So let's go back to Friday. That's when Pinellas County deputies said that they went to a home on Saunders Avenue in Largo to do a welfare check on the couple who lived there because one of them did not show up to work. When they arrived, they said that they found Elizabeth and Stephen Kirchner dead inside the home. Now, the couple's son, 37-year-old Nicholas Kirchner, had left before deputies arrived. That's when, a little bit later, detectives got a call from Sumter County, South Carolina. They got a call from their sheriff's department saying that Nicholas was involved in a separate incident up there in South Carolina in which he reportedly pointed a gun at someone and threatened to shoot them. And during this incident, he is reported to have said that he had already killed 2 people and he was going to kill some more. Now, Nicholas did flee that scene as well in South Carolina, but he was taken into custody in Georgia. And deputies said that that's when he admitted to killing both of his parents in Largo and did describe it as a righteous kill. As of right now, we're not exactly sure why he described it that way, why he would kill his parents and why he would say that it was a righteous kill. Now, he is awaiting extradition to Florida. Again, he was taken into custody in Georgia. He is awaiting extradition back to Florida on 2 counts of premeditated murder. Marlisa.
A very alarming story there, Nancy. So thanks for following that for us. The next story you wanted to bring up was such a sad story in the animal world. Lou the hippo passed away.
Yes, he did. Lou, or his proper name is Lucifer. He's actually Florida's only animal citizen. He was born in California in 1960, but he came to Florida, specifically to Homosassa Springs State Park that's up in Citrus County, in 1964. Now, Lou gained popularity throughout the 1960s with the Ivan Tors Animal Actors Troupe, and he appeared in various movies and television series. Lou is also known for his calm presence and gentle personality. So when these animals were not performing, they were at Homosassa Springs State Park, and they helped put this park on the map as a roadside attraction. Those were very popular back in the day here in Florida. So in 1989, the state of Florida, as well as the Park Service, wanted to only have animals that were native to Florida at Homosassa Springs State Park. And obviously, Lou does not fit that category. Hippos are not native to the state of Florida. But because he had been in the state for so long, Florida citizens began a letter writing campaign that actually reached then Governor Lawton Chiles. And Governor Chiles granted Lou an honorary Florida citizenship. He is the only animal to be an honorary citizen of the state of Florida. Now, unfortunately, Lou did pass away, and the Florida Department of Environmental Protection said that Lou died peacefully and that a memorial will be placed at Homosassa Springs State Park in honor of Lou the hippo. Marlisa.
Oh, such a sad story. I'm not that familiar with the lifespan of hippos, but it seems like Lou had a pretty decent run.
Yes, he did, and I'm not 100% clear, but I believe he was the oldest hippo in America that was living in captivity. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's right. I'm a huge fan of Lou. I loved visiting him up at Homosassa Springs State Park, and I believe during one of my visits up to Homosassa Springs that they did say that he was the oldest hippo living in captivity in America.
Wow. What a run. All right, thinking about Lou and all of his fans out there. Okay, this next story that you've been following, this is just such a heartwarming story, Nancy. A Pasco man actually got the opportunity to meet the little boy that he saved with his stem cells.
Yes, that's right. And Nate Wood, he does live here up in Wesley Chapel. In 2009, he did a quick mouth swab to join DKMS. That is the largest stem cell registry in the world. And he said that he didn't really think about it that much. He just did the mouth swab. And 12 years later, in 2021, he matched with Jonah Hoots and saved his life. Now, Jonah was diagnosed with HLH. That's a rare blood disease only found in 1 out of every 50,000 to 100,000 births. It can cause uncontrolled immune response and lead to multi-organ failure in a matter of months if it's left untreated. Now, Jonah's parents actually began looking for a stem cell donor for him before he was even born, and that's because 6 years before Jonah was born, his sister was diagnosed with that disorder, and all it takes is actually 1 stem cell transfusion from a donor to cure this HLH disorder. But the problem is it can often be difficult to find a matching donor. As I mentioned, DKMS is the largest stem cell registry in the world. It is a global nonprofit organization, and it helps match patients in need with potential donors. Now, DKMS did find a match for Jonah's sister in Germany 6 years ago and matched Jonah with Wood in 2021. Now, just last month, both families flew to the UK for the DKMS gala, and they were able to meet for the first time. Jonah's family said being able to meet Wood in person, give him a hug, and say thank you was absolutely incredible. Now, anybody who is interested in joining the registry can log on to fox13news.com. We do have a link to the DKMS site within the story about Wood meeting this little boy whose life he saved. So you are able to go read the story, click on the link, and register yourself to see where how you can register. Again, all it takes is a simple cheek swab to get on this registry, but you do have to be at least 18 years old. Marlisa?
I love that story, Nancy. Not only is it a great story, but the fact that you're able to provide information for people to learn how they too can do the same thing is just absolutely wonderful.
Yes, it's, again, as I mentioned, it's just a simple cheek swab, and often cases donating the stem cells is kind of alike to donating blood. You sit there, you have, it's called an apheresis machine, and the blood is just drawn, the stem cells are drawn out of your arm, and that's usually how a donation is done. The donor oftentimes is given medication to help their body produce more stem cells, and then again, it's usually something as simple as akin to a blood donation, and you can definitely help save someone's life.
Wow. Great information to know. Nancy, as always, thanks so much for dropping by for today's Tampa Connection. It was great seeing you.
It was great seeing you as well.
Perfect. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Okay, such good information there, jam-packed with so much information and so many good stories during this hour. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we have many more stories coming up. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Florida Live on this Monday afternoon. Getting back into some of our topics for the day. Governor Ron DeSantis held a press conference earlier this morning at the Wakulla Environmental Institute in Crawfordville. So we had been wondering, what is he going to talk about? Is there going to be a bill signed? We had to wait, of course, until the press conference happened. But we learned that new Point Blank manufacturing plant is going into Crawfordville. The contractor will be making tactical gear for law enforcement and the military. And listen to this. There's going to be about 300 jobs at Point Blank, which is going to generate $3.5 billion. That's a lot of money we're talking about bringing into that area. Governor DeSantis spoke a little bit about the economic impact, because when you think about it, that's a lot of money again, right? So it's going to impact not only that area, but the people who are going to be employed there, the people who are living there. So that economic impact of the facility and the impact to the state of Florida. I want you to go ahead and take a listen to what he had to say in that press conference.
To have this great announcement and to really show that we are making huge progress in not just the economy. We're ranked #1 in Florida in the economy the last 2 years by both CNBC and by U.S. News and World Report of all 50 states. And you can see the statistics and everything. But one of the things we've really done is, since I've been governor, we've added over 100,000 manufacturing jobs. You hear a lot of talk about this, obviously nationally. In Florida, we're showing how it's done, and this initiative that has now led to Point Blank being able to really produce some great jobs is a good example of how that works. Now, Florida, if you look at all 50 states, we have the lowest number of government employees per capita, so we have a limited government. We have paid off, if you look at 180 years of Florida history and the amount of debt the state had accumulated, not actually that much compared to some of these other states, but just since I've been governor, we've paid off 41% of that and counting. So we now have the lowest per capita debt of any state in the United States of America. Your share of the federal debt, if they were to just make everyone pony up to pay it off as a U.S. citizen, would be over $105,000. Your share of the Florida debt is about $450. So this is much, and declining every day. We also have one of the lowest tax burdens in the country, second lowest amongst for state tax burden. And we're also working on local relief with property tax, and so stay tuned on that. We want to deliver victories there, but no state income tax. And we're working with the legislature to eliminate a tax that Florida was really an anomaly on, and that's taxing business rent. Makes no sense. It's not good for the economy. So I think that that's going to go the way of the buffalo. We've done a lot to reduce it, but I think we're going to be able to eliminate it. We lead the nation in new business formations. Every year for the past 5 or 6 years, more businesses have been formed in Florida than any state. And here's the thing. We're the third largest state. So you'd think, obviously, even if we weren't somehow doing well, we're going to have more business formations than small states. But, California has almost twice as many people. We have 23+ million. They're close to 40 million. And yet we have more business formations in Florida than in California. I think as people realize their businesses aren't going to burn down in Florida, and you're going to be able to actually keep law and order. And I see what's going on out there, and it's really disgraceful to be letting the inmates run the asylum. I just have never quite figured out. You got people out there, they are supposedly objecting to the enforcement of immigration laws, and so they're protesting that, which, first of all, the federal government has a right to do. That's the laws of this country, and you have every right. The Trump administration, DHS, has every right to be enforcing the laws. But you have some of these people, they're objecting because they don't want to get kicked out of America, and yet they're burning the American flag, and yet they're waving the flag of the country that they don't want to get sent back to. Can you please make this make sense to me? I mean, it's insane. And so what happens in California, I think a lot of people over the years, they just haven't felt safe, particularly in places like LA and in San Francisco, because, they really do let the inmates run the asylum. When you try to do that in Florida, the chances of you getting away with that is precisely zero, because we will hold you accountable and do that very quickly. So the business formation has been good, but I do think the public safety has been a big part of the economic success, and I think it's really hurt some of these states that have walked away from it. So we've been able to do that. We've had a lower unemployment rate than the nation as a whole for, years now going. We've grown the economy in Florida since I became governor. I don't know, it's probably up more. I used to say we grew it 30%. I think it's probably closer to 40%. Some even say we've grown at 50% Florida's economy, but we have the second highest GDP growth as a percentage of any state in the country. The only state ahead of us is Idaho, and it's a beautiful state, but it's only a couple million people, so it's a lot easier to have a bigger percentage jump for us. We've got 23 million people, so that's great. And we're working on, and I know Corey Simon's here, Senator, he's done a great job for you guys. And I know this is not his fault, but there's still not a budget done in the legislature. I think it's coming. I think it's coming. Everyone just kind of, you wait by the state capitol. It's almost like, the Vatican, you have the white smoke, Habemus. It's like, when is a budget? Do we have a budget? And all this stuff. But suffice it to say, we've been able to do really big things for the state. I'm going to mention what we did here to help this project. We've increased teacher salaries more than has ever been done in the history of Florida. We've done bonuses for law enforcement that had never been done before. It's been huge for the people that wear the uniform. We've invested massive resources into restoring and nurturing our natural resources, whether that's our springs, whether that's our Everglades, whether that's our coastline. Really historic things have been done in that realm. And then in infrastructure and transportation, we've put billions of dollars into accelerating these projects, and we're having great success on that. And we've returned billions and billions of dollars to taxpayers. So, but with all that being said, current year, we're spending less than than what we spent the year before. And I think when this budget's finished, I think we're going to end up spending even less next year, while hopefully still being able to do the things that people really want us to do.
All right, so there's still a lot of information to come out of that. We had to cut that interview short, but you can find more of that online on fox35orlando.com. We're going to go to a quick break, and we will be right back.
$500,000. And just as the new leader of the school district, I felt it was important to share this information because my philosophy on leadership is not only transparency, but as a superintendent, I'm responsible for everything that happens in this district. And I believe that the public has a right to know about the financial impact of it as well. And my mentor always had a saying. He said, "What would public education look like if we did what's best for kids and not what's best for adults?" And we can't hide kids. We have to educate them to the highest standard. And that's exactly what we're going to do going forward. Again, my philosophy is I'm the superintendent. I'm responsible for everything that happens here. But at the end of the day, this is the community school district. And we have to restore that trust that we're going to do everything to the highest degree of integrity. So with that being said, I will open it up for any questions.
As far as restoring that trust, and what are the proactive steps the district is ensuring that something like this won't happen again?
Absolutely. So we've reviewed the full report in detail. We've obviously adjusted a lot of internal protocols in terms of moving schools of enrollment versus schools of instruction to ensure that those school codes are not happening and that students are staying to their assigned schools no matter what their performance outcomes look like.
So the program that's mentioned in this report, is that no longer active?
It's no longer active, no sir, and hasn't been since 2021.
You mentioned the budget impacts. Do you mind explaining, is the school district going to have to give this money back, or what is that?
In my initial conversations with the state, I don't believe we're going to have to pay any money back at this time. I will tell you, we have a great leadership at the state level with the Florida Department of Education. Our governor is the education governor. We've got a great commissioner of education, and they don't want to put us in a position where we're hurting students. And at this time, this was done under a previous administration, and them taking away money from kids now for the faults of a previous administration wouldn't be the right thing to do. So I don't believe that we're going to have to pay any money back. If we did, that would be a huge surprise to me.
And so I assume because this is no longer active, that the current school grades for these 4 schools in question, as well as the A grade that your district has, is based on accurate placement of students and is not based on that old system.
Absolutely. So the current grades that will come out this year will be 100% accurate. We have a great staff here in Sumter County. I'm proud of the work that our teachers do every day in and day out. This is unfortunate. Again, this is something that happened in the past, and we want to go forward and focus on the great things that we're doing well. The only thing that I can commit to you as the leader of the school district now is that this will never happen again.
Another final report has come out. Some names are included in that report. You talked about some of the protocol to make sure this doesn't happen again. Have there been any internal leadership changes?
Absolutely, absolutely. The former assistant superintendent, we have a new assistant superintendent now. We've got new director of secondary education. We've made a lot of positive changes for the kids of Sumter County. And as the leader of this school district, I make changes based on 3 things, and in this order. I make decisions based on students first, the good of the overall district, and then good of the individual school or staff members. And if you put students first at the foundation of every decision that you make, then stuff like this can't happen.
To clarify, since the report has come out, you've made changes?
This was done prior to the report coming out, yes.
Okay.
Were the parents of the 200 students ever?
Again, very important to note here, this happened under the previous superintendent and previous assistant superintendent. So this is a person in charge who has taken over since then, but in an effort to be transparent, wanted to release all this information in a press conference. Again, our own Randy Hildreth is following this story. She was at that press conference this morning, and she is working on filing a report for the evening newscast. We are going to be right back with a lot of brand new theme park news. We have one of our favorite park insiders joining us. We'll chat with him on the other side of this break. lot of people living here, a lot of people visiting. They are excited about new happenings that are happening in the theme park. So we have one of our favorite park insiders joining us now. Theron, so good to see you.
Happy to join.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's the deal. Epic Universe is teasing some brand new restaurants coming to Celestial Park in 2026. And this comes after Walt Disney World permanently closed Muppet Vision 3D. We know that Pizza Rizzo, the restaurant, was there, and the rest of the Muppets courtyard. So tell us about this. I know a lot of people are having a tough time dealing with the loss of all of these things.
Yeah, so Muppet Vision 3D, the show that was actually built by Jim Henson himself, has now officially closed at Disney's Hollywood Studios. That closed last Saturday, the 7th. One cool fact about that I want to mention is the very last guest to walk into that show was Heather Beth Henson, his daughter. So I think that's really cool. A cool way to end that. They had a lot of fans there. But yes, it has closed. That show is done for right now. Maybe one day it could magically teleport back to one of the Disney parks, but for now it is gone. The Muppets themselves are going to be moving over into Rock and Roller Coaster on the other side of the park, and Disney has confirmed with Kermit himself speaking about it that was going to open up in 2026. They didn't give an exact date yet, but we do know that a Mandalorian and the Grogu re-theme of the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run ride is going to open at that same park next year in May. So I assume we get something in May, then maybe we get the Muppets later on in the year. Kind of gives Disney a 2-for-1 year at Disney's Hollywood Studios.
Gotcha. So when it came to the send-off, there was a 13-hour send-off for this attraction. That's a long time. And I hear that they actually extended the hours a little bit later for people to kind of stay. Very nostalgic. There were a lot of emotions that went on. So how are you feeling? I want to do a check-in with you. How are you feeling in the midst of all of this?
So I love the Disney parks and I love the Muppets. This has never been my favorite show, and I might get some hate from that. I don't want it to go, you know. I love the idea of us expanding on the parks, and I always want to add more attractions and more shows. But personally, this wasn't the biggest loss to me. Like if they took something away like the People Mover at the Magic Kingdom, I would be chaining myself up to the ride. But for Muppet Vision, I know a lot of people really cared about this. They went there, as you said, all day long. I'm really happy to see that Disney did extend the hours for the show. Some of the clips online from social media when the people would just cheer for the show to begin, and that final show, people were hanging out. They came in fun costumes. Some people built hats and other stuff. So it was great to see that there were so many fans there and that Disney did allow them more time to be able to enjoy that. It did seem like it was a fun send-off, and there was a lot of people there for it. I wasn't there on that exact day, but I did go earlier in the week to give kind of my final goodbye to the Muppets.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I know a lot of people are going to have a different opinion about that. So shut down the comments. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, I want to actually backtrack to when I mentioned Epic Universe. They have been teasing their new restaurants that are going to be coming in 2026. As big of a foodie as I am, I don't know why I just glossed over that so fast, because we need to give the food its own time. So let's chat a little bit about some of the offerings that we can expect.
Yeah, so Universal hasn't explicitly said what's going to be coming to the park, but there's been some photos that have been shared online now on social media of them putting up kind of subtle signage showing that they are ready to expand and something is going to be opening in 2026 in Celestial Park. So Celestial Park, that is going to be the center of Universal Epic Universe. They have a ton of restaurants and bars there, and it looks like they're already getting ready to add some more. There's rumors that they're ready to expand with other expansions, new portals, new rides. That has not been confirmed, but as you can see, the park opened up this year in 2025, and they're already ready for a 2026 expansion, and they're getting prepped for it right now.
They are ready. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for this?
I am very excited for this specific thing because Universal Epic Universe has really kind of flipped my mindset on how Universal does food. Prior to Epic Universe, I had consistently said that Universal was not the best at your standard quick service food. They were very cheeseburger, chicken nuggets, pizza, again and again and again. Epic Universe throws that completely out of the way. A lot of these restaurants offer totally unique things. They're very well themed. The food gets out quick. It's very high quality. So while I don't know what this restaurant is going to be, it's in Celestial Park, which is my favorite of the lands at Epic Universe. So whatever it's going to be, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are excited about that as well. Last question for you. When it comes to the Muppets taking over the Rock and Roller Coaster area of their own coaster in 2026, at Hollywood Studios, do you have any insight on what we can expect that to be? I mean, we're halfway in between 2025, so it'll be here sooner than we think.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be arriving soon. We know this is going to be a re-theme of the attraction. So if you're someone that maybe loves the ride, but you're not the biggest fan of the Muppets, you're still going to get that same thrill. You can expect that launch. You're still going to go upside down. I'm very interested to see how they're going to intertwine the Muppets into this, because the Muppets absolutely are kid friendly, but they're not afraid to also speak to adults. So the fact that we're going from a show that was available for everyone to a ride now that is for people that are of a certain height requirement, I feel like they can kind of tone the Muppets up a little bit. We have Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which plays iconic 80s music over at Epcot with the Marvel characters. And now we have a chance. I don't know if we're going to see the Muppets playing their own music. Are they going to make up their own kind of songs to go with this? Or are we going to get more rock and roll? Maybe we get 90s and early 2000s music and the Muppets are just going to be kind of part of it. We don't have those exact details yet, but I think Disney has a lot of room for creativity and a lot of fun. The Muppets themselves are such unique characters with their own storylines. This could be done really, really well. We'll have to see exactly what it's going to be. I've seen some rumors online of people saying that they could repaint the iconic red guitar outside. They could make that look kind of like tie-dye, maybe look 70s. Who knows? We got a lot of stuff to learn about this ride, but I'm excited to see the change.
You caught me at 90s, 2000s music. I mean, that is my time. That's my jam.
Yeah, I mean, we have the 80s music for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Now, the Muppets themselves have been around for many, many, many years, so they have a lot that they could pick from. But we had Aerosmith. Maybe they want to push it back a little bit, as the ride gets updated, kind of pull the timeline a little bit as well. I don't think people would be upset about that.
I don't think so either. I like what you're thinking, Theron. Before I let you go, where can people find more information? Where are you online?
Yeah, if you want to learn everything you need to know, you can head to eyntk.info. We have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff.
Lead publisher of EYNTK, Theron White. As always, thank you so much for joining us here. We certainly appreciate you.
Absolutely. Always happy to join.
All right. Good to see you. Have a great rest of the day. Oh, so much theme park news. We can never get enough here on Florida Live. Stick around. We'll have much more news right after this quick break. Welcome back to Florida Live. Marlisa Goldsmith here today with you. Listen, huge news out of the sports world when we're talking about the Tampa Bay Rays. A long time, what would you call him, Johnny? legend. That's probably the best word to describe Evan Longoria. And this past Saturday, the Rays legend himself, Evan Longoria, he signed a one-deal contract for him to come back and be able to retire as a Tampa Bay Ray. This meant a lot to him because he never really officially ended things here in Florida. So he came back to be inducted into the Rays Hall of Fame. And at a news conference this past weekend on Saturday, Longo sat down with Rays owner Stu Sternberg, and they kind of talked about everything with him retiring and kind of the legacy that he leaves behind ahead of that first pitch on Saturday against the Miami Marlins. Let's go ahead and take a look.
How fortunate we were from our scouting staff to be able to have the opportunity to draft and sign Evan in 2007. 2006, sorry, that's right. We were pretty crappy. Yeah, 2006, it was 7 years started. And it was really a transformative time for us. He was the guy we had number one on our board by far, and fortunately he fell to us at number 3, and we never looked back. The team changed names, and Evan came right in as a Tampa Bay Ray, and the entire franchise changed, and the fan base and everything that went along with it. So I'm incredibly pleased, and we were all fortunate to have Evan make the choice to sit here and retire as a Tampa Bay Ray today. Thank you.
Evan, you have some remarks?
Yeah, I'd just like to give a little bit of background on how it all happened. Obviously, I haven't played baseball in the better part of a year and a half now, but I waited in the beginning because I didn't know if I was going to play again. And then when I kind of made the decision that I wasn't going to, it was still about 6 or 7 months in between there where I was not even really deciding what I was going to do because I already knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to come back here and end my career somehow as a Ray. And so through the help of, front office people, Eric Neander, the clubhouse guys, us coming back last year and being able to throw out a first pitch and kind of kick off the celebration then and the combination of Elvis and Eric over the past 6 months, working out this day and making it special for us, and them just really asking every little detail on how we can make it better and make it a day for us to celebrate, kind of culminates today. So I was telling Stu before we came up here how you could be a really good player, but you have to have opportunity. And I felt like the Rays obviously we weren't very good before that. But when I was drafted by the Rays, I looked at it as, I had a pretty clear path if I played well and I was able to kind of be the player that I thought I could be. I had a pretty clear path to getting to the big leagues pretty quickly, which I think is every young player's goal. So I was excited to be drafted by the team that was the worst team in the league for quite a long time up to that point. And I think, he's being gracious in saying that I was the most important, but we had a lot of great players who they drafted over the course of the next 2 or 3 years that were able to, kind of be the ones that took us to where we ultimately got. So I'm grateful to everybody who I've seen in this room and done interviews with over the years. I'm happy that this is going to be the last time I have to stand up here and do a post or pregame interview because this will be the most nervous that I've ever been for one, for sure. But
again, that was Tampa